Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Sólstafir, Endless Twilight of the Codependent Love, out November 6 on Season of Mist. The album has 9 tracks, 63 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album. I feel like these guys are one of those very few, and I stress that very few bands, that can go into a record not worried about rules, structure, genres, or expectations. Go in with a clean canvas and you just start working on it. You're just letting your creativity flow. What ends up being the final product is just a result of that creativity and not of any boundaries or preconceived ideas that they had going into that process. Almost like they discover light within darkness and order within chaos. That's exactly how this album felt to me. The way this record flows from the first track to the last track is outstanding. It's not like the album has musical guidelines that connects the songs and you feel like as the one song is finishing, that same melody or that same riff is transporting you into the next song and so forth as you move down the line. I didn't feel like that was how this album really flew from one song to the other, and it was not how this album was interconnected. What was putting this whole record together as one is really the atmosphere that it has and the emotional baggage that it carries. Those two elements are strong with every single song. How strong they are, it depends on the track. It depends on how you perceive the track, and also depends on how this track was constructed. But you cannot deny that the atmosphere that this record has in general is really a driving force for how fluid this album is and how interconnected the songs are. You honestly travel from one song to the other more on an emotional level than you do on a musical level. Is the emotion that you had from that first song that really carries you into the second song, and then the emotional baggage that you develop within that second song, it's going to be what carries you into the third song, and so forth and so forth. Really interesting way of approaching an album and approaching the fluidity of an album, not necessarily depending on the construction of the songs, the individual construction of the songs, and how those impact the overall construction of the record, or depending on musical segues in order to keep the songs interconnected or intertwined, but rather depend on the overall feel, emotion, and atmosphere that the album has, and the emotion that you develop with each and every single song, and how that builds up as you transport yourself from the first all the way to the last track. Overall, the sound is magnificent. Once again, it really lives off of that atmosphere. The sound drives the atmosphere, and at the same time, the atmosphere that the album creates drives where the sound goes. The two are intertwined. It's almost the chicken and egg. You honestly don't know which one came first. But when you look deeper into the sound, to me there are two elements that are very important in how this record operates, and that is the guitars and drums. Starting off with the guitars, I love the grittiness that they showed on this record. Not on every single song, but it's there. It's present on almost every track. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But I felt that there were a lot of rock undertones into how the guitars sounded. Very gritty, very raw, very emotional, very pure, falling in line exactly with the overall feel that this album has. From a guitar's perspective, it's not polished at all. It feels like it was recorded in a jam session, and the first take is the take that they took. It has that raw, organic nature to it and how it comes across. The drums on the other side offer a little bit of a different spectrum. I felt that they were heavy when they needed to be, they were driven when they needed to be, but overall they had more of a calm, subdued effect when you consider all the other elements around it, and definitely a more polished feel, a more clean, classical, almost jazzy vibe at times, and how they interact with the other elements within the songs, creating part of that incredible atmosphere that the album has. It's an important element because it really creates the baseline in which you can build all the other building blocks upon. And you have to understand how you're going to go across creating this atmosphere, including the drums in it, and not allowing the drums to overpower all the other elements. This is a record about the combination of all elements: vocals, guitars, drums, bass, not necessarily one element overshadowing the others. So the back seat that the drums took, sometimes a little bit really subdued, really forced into that back seat, more so than the guitars, I felt it was really important in order to create the essence of this album. And the bass, by the way, I love the bass on this record. They definitely didn't skimp on the bass. They allowed it to have a very strong presence, but I really mixed the bass with the drums. The two kind of worked in parallel with each other in order to create that nice foundation for the record, allowing the guitars sometimes to be a little bit wilder, to be a little bit looser, and like I said before, a little bit grittier. Vocals, Adi is phenomenal. He has this ability to not just spew words out. He's a vocalist that really uses his voice, his tone, as another instrument of sound, another instrument of emotion, and definitely another instrument of atmosphere for how this whole record comes together. I love that aspect of him. You really feel the power, the strength, the warmth. He feels every single thing that he says, and in the way that he says it, it adds a different sound, a different perspective on how the songs come across. And he's definitely one of those elements that adds a lot of atmosphere to the track, because you can feel that warmth coming from him. You can feel the emotions that those songs bring out of them. Sometimes anger, sometimes pain, sometimes melancholy, suffering, anguish, all of these things put together. But he has such a unique way of feeling the track, understanding the emotion that is built within that song, and allowing himself to be the vessel in which that emotion comes out. Not just out there and saying words that perhaps have little to no meaning. He really feels everything that he says, but sometimes, in my opinion, it's not just what he says, it's how he says it. The emotion that comes out in it that makes it even more important. Overall, I love this record. These guys are really special. They're a very special band that delivers art, that delivers albums that are just pure art. The CD, the vinyl is the canvas, and everything that they put on it is just pure bliss, pure art. This album is no different. You're going to find yourself lost in it. You're going to find yourself lost in the emotion that the album has, and the atmosphere that it carries from song to song. It's just one of those albums that it needs to be digested. It needs to be appreciated and not consumed. As far as tracks are concerned, I want to start off with Her Fall from Grace, the only track in English on this record, and it deals with watching a loved one lose a battle to mental illness. It's a really emotionally driven song, not only from the lyrical content and how those lyrics are delivered, but also from the music that it has and how it's put together. I really felt that this song musically was divided into two parts. You have the first part, which is this depressing melancholy, if you will, the way it comes across. It has this heavy weight on your shoulders, and you not necessarily know how to deal with it. You just feel like you're falling under its weight. And then the second part of this two-tone track, if you will, is a little bit more of liberation. Perhaps not a positive liberation, because I don't feel overall like this is a record that has a lot of positivity to it. I actually felt that this is a record that had a lot of darkness, was very cold. It had a very cold soundscape to it. And this song is perhaps one of those very cold songs. There is some warmth in there, but it's a very dark, embracing warmth. Perhaps the warmth of death and finality, and that there's no more pain and no more suffering coming after that. I love how this song is constructed, and I love how it's delivered. Next, Til Moldar. The vocals are haunting on this track. I really want to start off by saying that I felt that the vocals were just outstanding, very dark and very haunting. The track comes to life, and it brings in a little bit of brightness. When the music comes in, it brings in a little bit of that. It's a song that's divided in verses and chorus. It really has that defined break into it. You really feel that it's different in one portion than what it is in the other, and that divide is really significant. The verses are more mellow, more atmospheric. The vocals are haunting and dark, and then the chorus gains a little bit more power, gains a little bit more brightness. They find that brightness in the darkness of the verses and allow it to shine through in the chorus. Using some backing vocals in the chorus, in my opinion, added volume. It didn't make the song heavier. It perhaps made the song a little bit more haunting, a little bit bigger, if you will, because you feel the volume, you feel the presence, you feel the warmth coming through those vocals, and in my opinion, it really worked well. This is a track that transports you through darkness and light as you're moving along from beginning all the way to the end. Last but not least, Alda Syndanna. I love this track. It has a very rock, pure rock essence to it. The way it sounds, the way it's constructed, the way it comes across. It has a bass that is absolutely killer. The bass line on this song is just phenomenal. I love how predominant it is. They let the bass take the forefront of the track, allow it to really dictate a little bit of the mood of the song and the pace that the song has. And the guitars offer a little bit of bite at times. It's overall a very rocky, grittier kind of rock tune, if you will, but it alternates. It's not like that from beginning to end. They do alternate it. They allow the guitars to go away a little bit. The bass comes in and takes over that role, and then the bass almost moves into the backdrop and the guitars come into the forefront, and they become the driving force of how this song moves along from beginning to end, really pushing the song forward. But overall, the vocals feel free. They don't feel like they follow necessarily a guideline. They feel very organic, very emotionally driven throughout the track. Where the emotions are going is where the vocal delivery takes you. That's how this song feels. It feels very wild, very chaotic from that perspective. But within that chaos, there is a pattern. And there is a guideline that follows. And you feel that as you move along through it. But overall, I really took away from this song is how much I enjoyed the guitars. The guitar sound felt to me like it was coming out of a jam session, something very emotional, that it worked on the spot, that you start playing it because you were feeling, you were in a different headspace, you were in a different place emotionally, and the result of that is how the guitars sound, the grittiness that they have, the rawness that they have, that organic substance to how they come across and how they're put together on this track is really what sold me on this song. This is it, guys. This is Sólstafir with Endless Twilight of the Codependent Love, out November 6th on Season of Mist. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.